Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Producer's Perspective Live. It is Wednesday. We have a fantastic guest for you tonight. Director Lonny Price, director, actor, filmmaker. He wears a lot of hats. I think he's wearing one tonight, actually. He's literally wearing a hat tonight. He wears a lot of hats. He's a fantastic guy and a fantastic theater maker, and he is here for you tonight. I did say it is Wednesday. So you also know what that means, right? Wednesday. What is it? Hashtag Show Shirt Wednesday, everybody. It is Show Shirt Wednesday. How many people out there are wearing show shirts? Do we have people wearing show shirts? We had Monday night, I wore a tie. Last night, I wore a baseball hat. Tonight, I'm wearing a show shirt. Do you know what it is? Let's hear what show. We have a Hamilton show shirt on. What else we got going on? Anybody else out there? No? Show shirts? Kathy's wearing Hamilton. Anybody else? Come on, give me something. Give me something. Anybody? All right, now can you guess my show shirt? Can you guess my show shirt? What is it? I will give you a hint. It is the first show I ever produced. Ready? Here we go. The slow reveal. First of all, you get it? Want to get high? Get it? It's from my very first show. It is from, I hope you can see that. Can you see it? God dang it, I can't do this. It's from the Awesome Ladies Prom. The first show I ever wrote. I directed it. I wore a lot of hats. I produced it because I had to, because I couldn't get anyone else to do it. I actually wrote about this in my books. It was a crazy story. I didn't know what the F I was doing, but I put it up and it worked out. That's my show shirt, my very first show. Want to Get High, the Awesome 80s Prom. Check it out. It's actually done at high schools. You saw Florida Thespian, like high schools are doing this thing now. It's crazy. They weren't even alive, these kids, when the 80s were around. Anyway, they're doing it. That's my show shirt. I hope you've got a show shirt. Ooh, someone's wearing Altar Boys. That's amazing. Someone's wearing Prom. Oh, no, you're saying Prom. Got it. I get it. I'm a little slow. A Kellerman shirt from Dirty Dancing. Vanetta. How timely of you for today's guest. How timely. A little bit more about today's guest. Lonny Price is backstage, Sunset Boulevard, Scotland, PA, a class act. How many people know that show? Brilliant, brilliant show. He did a documentary about Merrily, We Roll Along. We're going to talk about. He was an original cast member. And yes, he was in Dirty Dancing, something he probably is tired of people talking about, but we may talk about it anyway. Don't forget why we're here. We're here to raise money and raise attention for the Actors Fund. That's why we're here. Check out that link. Donate something. There's a tip jar on that Facebook page that you are on right now. Don't forget, we're also here to raise attention for social distancing and to get everyone to stay the heck home. I'm feeling that tonight we should not use profanity like I did last night. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay home, everybody. We're starting to see some flattening of the curve. Even though there's a lot of other very somber and dark news right now, we're also seeing some flattening in a lot of places. And once we get to the top of that mountain, we're going to come down that other side, but only if we stay home, only if we stay home. A lot of news today as well. First of all, for all my Jewish friends out there celebrating Passover, happy Passover, everybody. Tonight is the first night of Passover. Happy Passover. Look at Mary working up that graphic. Happy Passover, everybody. Second, in other Broadway-related news, Broadway announced today that we would be shut down until June 7th. It's going to be longer than that. It's going to be longer. But June 7th is the official date, but it's going to be longer than that. Governor Cuomo actually had some things to say about our announcing June 7th. And basically, he said it's going to be longer than that. So what he says goes these days. So we are going to be in this for a little bit longer. So since we've all got a little more time on our hands, I'm doing something a little special and different, inspired by a lot of the conversations I've actually here on the live stream. Next week, I'm going to do another live stream webinar thing. Check it out. I think we've got a graphic for it. It's for all you theater makers out there. It's how theater makers can make the most of their quarantine. Get it? How theater makers can make the most of their quarantine. It's just a free webinar. Mary is going to put up the link somewhere. She's going to put up the link somewhere and in the chats, and we will. You'll be able to register for free and check it out. It's just me trying to talk about all the things we can do to keep projects going. Stuff I've learned from people like we're going to learn from Lonny Price and Sierra and Alan Cumming and all the stuff. We put it together one webinar next week. Something for you, 6 o'clock, April 16th. Okay, there it is. Mary, it was a little late there. You're a little late today. Okay, speaking of being late, I don't want to be late for our guest tonight. We've kept him backstage already too long. This is a very busy guy, so let's bring him out. Ladies and gentlemen of the live stream, Mr. Lonny Price. Welcome, Lonny.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Charlie.
Charlie.
Yeah.
Let me just ask, how did Charlie get his name?
It's not what you think. My first dog was named Charlie, so it's just Charlie's my dog. So that's in fact the role. I was like, maybe I'll get this because his name is Charlie. So it started with my dog.
I love it. I love it. We're talking about, of course, Merrily. We roll along. And you are, first of all, how are you doing? How are things?
I'm great. I'm very lucky. I'm fine. I'm on the Upper West Side. There are no shortages of anything. You know, the shelves are filled. There's, everything you need. I mean, we're really blessed here. I'm not feeling anything but, a little cabin fever, but I live between the parks, so I get to take Charlie to the park every day. I hope that stays. Hope they don't close the parks. That will be bad. But in general, I feel very blessed and lucky and not suffering like so many people are.
And where were you when the virus hit the fan, as I like to say? Like, what was going on? Where were you? Do you remember the moment where you were like, oh, God, this is going to be different. I need to stock up on some things, or I need to go home or do whatever it is you did. When did you know? Where were you?
I don't think there was a moment. I think it was just incremental, just getting the information and, it's worse than that. Oh, it's worse than that. Oh, it's, that it just kept getting worse and worse. So I cannot tell you that there was a moment where I thought, oh, this is as bad as it's turned out to be. So I don't have a moment in it to report.
And any projects you were working on that were interrupted by this? You've always a guy that has a lot of plates spinning. So what?
Yeah, just really one. Well, and one that's happening in the summer that I'm assuming will go away. But a show that you helped me on, Scotland, PA, is we were going to do. We've done a bunch of rewrites, and we were going to go to Minneapolis at Theater La Tida there for a week workshop before we go to Boston next year with it again. So that got the festival, is not happening. And so that was, but most of my things, again, lucky for me, are happening in, next year. As I'm in prep for stuff for next year. So I'm in, relatively okay shape. So I'm not as bad as a lot of, when you ask that question about when did you find out, I think it's getting closer to me, like more and more of my friends are getting it, in my circle. And so that's, it feels more and more sobering as that happens when it's people anyway, so it's kind of getting creepier as it goes on. But anyway, those are just that project, and I'm doing something with the Aspen Music Festival in the summer, and they've not canceled it, but I'm just kind of thinking they will. So we'll see.
And so how you hear about, you were excited, I know you were excited about the Scotland, PA reading.
Yeah.
How do you, when you hear something like that, how do you get yourself back up and keep going, especially in a moment like this? So what are you doing to keep your projects, the balls in the air, those plates spinning, and your own, like director, you're the captain of the ship. You are in charge even more than a producer a lot of the time to make sure, especially when you're doing creative work, how do you make sure things keep going forward?
Well, for instance, Scotland, we're doing Skype meetings. Adam Guan and Michael Mitnick and I are doing Skype meetings, and we are involving Hal Luftig is doing some Skype meetings with us, and so that is ongoing. So that doesn't, it's just sort of learning how to work on not Skype, Zoom, learning how to work on Zoom, which is an amazing platform. and I spend a lot of my day on it. And I'm sure you spend even more time on it than I do. So that's part of it. The other thing is I'm lucky. I'm editing something that I shot, and the editor is in Canada, so we're going back and forth, and so that's taken a lot of my focus. That's going to wrap up this week, and I think then I'm going to really start to feel. But the thing is that the plate's spinning, the projects happen, but it's the time in between that. And what I'm discovering is there's a lot of cool stuff online. I don't know if you know, but Yale and Oxford and Harvard do classes. I mean, they do lecture series. I'm doing one that this amazing professor at Yale has done on epidemics and learning about smallpox and bubonic plague. And then there's others that are more cheerful than that. There's a thing called Master Class. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's, Ron Howard talking about directing and Helen Mirren talking about acting and Paul Krugman doing a thing on economics. And so for me, if it's just learning, is if I can just sit here and learn something, the time will have meant something more than, more meditating and more sort of spiritual stuff as well. But as long as I can keep that going, I think I'll be all right. The problem is, the sad thing is I can't help anybody because I'm asthmatic and nobody wants me. So I can't, really go anywhere because I'm sort of high risk. So that's a little, because I'd like to be out there doing something good for people, but it's not possible right now. So
I just love this that you're taking class and learning. I mean, I'm sure you have. Not only could you teach master classes, I'm sure you have taught master classes in a subject, and now there you are, an A-lister, and going like, oh, I'm gonna see what Ron Howard has to say about
that. So there's a lot I could learn from Ron Howard. He's amazing. I feel that's I think that keeps you sane. Is I think helping people and learning things are the things that keep you focused and less on yourself, and that you can grow a little bit. So that's I love that, and also again, economics and learning just about how this is affecting everybody. And it's very interesting. This may be boring to people, but this is not the first time, obviously, an epidemic has happened, and the response is not that different from quarantining and scapegoating. I mean, a lot of history is about God is smiting us for the terrible people that we are, and witch hunts, and it's all very interesting, but also how it affects culture. And I think it's going to be very interesting when we all come back after June 7th. I agree with you. I don't think that's really going to happen. But saying it does, or around there, who will we be? And what is our art going to reflect? What is the theater going to reflect? It can't be, going on as we did because something major just happened. So what are the plays and musicals and what's going to happen? I mean, I think if nothing happens, that would be a shame, because I think we need to be affected by what's going on, and it's a major thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing the response from the writers and the, painters and everybody, just like, what is this affect? How does this affect art? Because in the history of the world, it does. There are a lot of paintings about the plague and about, there's just a lot of resonance to something like this. So I just hope we, take it in and go learn something from it. Like maybe we've all been running around a little bit too much, and what is important in life and health and, all of that. There's things slowing down can be useful for. And so as sad as I am, obviously, for the people who are ill, terribly sad for the people who are ill and are dying, there's also a lesson here, I think, to listen to, is to, maybe take a breath and maybe reset a little bit and see if your values and what you've been looking for and all of that is as important as you thought they were. So that's very eggheady. I'm sorry, but that's kind of
it's very timely. The Pope actually had some very. It doesn't really matter, of course, what religion you are. This Pope, especially, the Pope had some very similar words to say about what's happening now and how it should all give us a check, and politicization of it all, and all. It was pretty amazing. So I'm fascinated, of course, about how our art will respond and how our writers will respond. I want you to imagine that there was not a committee, that you were in charge, that there could only be one play written about the pandemic, a pandemic,
Yeah.
And you were in charge of picking the living playwright to write it.
Yeah.
Who would you choose to write the one and only play about this experience?
Well, in a way, it came Tony Kushner. I mean, for sure.
Mine too, of course.
Yeah, I mean, he's just the best, and he's political, and he's emotional, and he's, I think, a genius. And yeah, I mean, he would be the one that I think would have the most to say and the most multifaceted take on it.
It would be as long as this shutdown, probably. The play would end up being 3 months long if it's Tony's writing it. But
if he's writing it, it'll be. I'll give him the 3 months. I'll give him the 3 months.
That's right. That's right. Throw some ideas for who you'd pick for that in the comments if you were on this committee, by the way, while I continue to pepper Lonny with some questions. So you obviously have worn multiple hats many times. I've said this before. I will say it to you again. One of my favorite Broadway experiences of all time was watching you in a class act. And that, I mean, just you were fantastic. How you don't perform anymore, right?
No.
Do you still get the desire to every once in a while?
You know what? I mostly don't. But what I did was when at Hal Prince's memorial, Jim Walton and Annie Morrison and I did Old Friends, and we did the stage unit, and Susan Stroman directed it, and I was terrified. It was it was not fun leading up to it. It was really, what did Rose say about marriage in Gypsy? After 3 husbands, it takes an awful lot of butter to get you back in the frying pan. Well, it took Hal dying for me to go, okay, if it's Judy and Daisy Prince asked me to do it, and it's just like, whatever, of course, they're family, and yes, I'll do anything. But it was terrifying, and I wound up enjoying it in a new way because it didn't matter anymore. I didn't want a job from anybody. I wasn't looking for anything. It was just a reminder of me enjoying singing and dancing like I used to. And so it actually turned out to be fun. And I think certainly once every 10 or 20 years, I should probably do that, but not more frequently than that. Although you never know, but it's, giving it up. It's, I gave it up a long time ago, and I'm a much older man now. And, you have to be a prize fighter to do this. It's, I sang, for 5 minutes. Now, if I sang a whole show, I'm not sure. I think I could do it maybe once a month these days, So the muscles aren't what they were, and they'd have to be trained again. And I don't know, my life's very different. I love watching great performers, and I'm so lucky that I've gotten to work with such extraordinary world-class actors. And so, they do it better than I ever did it, I think. And so, I get a vicarious thrill of watching them.
What I love, and I've heard from so many, obviously I'm not an actor myself, but I've heard from so many how they love working with you because, and I'm sure it's because you bring such a respect to that very difficult profession. When you were making you were very successful. I mean, let's face it, you were doing pretty damn well at a very young age. Well, how hard was it to be like, you know what? I'm going to start over in a different area of this business where I'm going to have to start from the bottom again and work myself up, where you could have kept cruising along.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, from the time I was, a child, it's all I ever wanted to do was to perform and to act and to be on the stage. And it was everything. I mean, there was just no other life but that. And by the time I gave it up, I had stopped loving it, honestly. It was okay to go. And the writing was on the wall. The kind of parts I was honestly being offered were not that interesting. I started losing my hair. I'm a little Jewish guy, and to play, the Jewish accountant in the corner, it's not that interesting, honestly. And when I was younger, I was playing a very large variety of different ethnicities and all of that. And then, it started narrowing because you're so your fate is so determined by your physicality. So I didn't feel like I was actually giving up that much. It wasn't like, oh, I would not play the great roles. I was never going to play the great roles. I was going to play the little guy in the corner, with snot coming out of his nose and being a nerd. I was going to play Neil Kellerman for the rest of my life. And I had played it, so that was enough. So it wasn't as hard as you'd think. No, it was okay. And I was just lucky that I fell into this. And also I fell into it in a very lucky way in that when I started directing, because I had a reputation as an actor, people listened to me. A young director, to work with people who are older than you. And if you don't have a reputation, and why would you if you're a young director? There's a suspicion of, actors have been screwed over by a lot of bad directors, and they're suspicious, but I was given enormous respect immediately. It was like, oh, even if he's not the best director, he's somewhat intelligent and he's had success, and so we'll give him the benefit of the doubt, which I think a lot of young directors don't get when they first start. So I was starting at the bottom, but I was starting with a little bit of pedigree, which I think helped with directing actors older than I was. And most shows had, I started when I was 29 or 30. And so most of the things I directed were of, with people older. So I really got lucky. I got lucky, and then I loved it. So that made it even better.
We talked about this a little bit on our podcast, but tell me what draws you to a show to say, oh, this one, you're now at a stage where a lot of people would love you to direct a lot of things. Tell me what makes you go, oh yeah, that's the one I want to spend. So, Scotland PA is a perfect example. You've been working on that show for how many years?
Oh God, well, 3 or 4 at least. Yeah. And that's not a long time considering other things I've been working on a long time. Yeah.
It gets to New York. It gets a great review from the New York Times.
Yeah.
But it goes to the Roundabout, and a lot of people would be like, okay, great. You got it here. It didn't jump to Broadway right away.
Right.
But you're like, you know what? Let's keep going. Let's keep working on this. And you keep going. So what about Scotland PA specifically and any show? What makes you say, I'm going to dedicate X number of years to this? I have to.
It's a very good question. And in terms of Scotland, I think the quality of the writing, I love Michael Mitnick and Adam Guan. I think they're both extraordinary and wonderful young writers who love the theater, love the musical theater, and also are very well versed and respect the history of it. And, if they're breaking rules, they know the rules they're breaking. They're not just kind of going, oh, they're incredibly knowledgeable, talented. And the piece, I think, is it's always interesting to me, pieces about unwieldy ambition and the price you pay for that. And I guess I think about that a lot, is the price we pay to be, artists, or even just in terms of America and greed and avarice and that addiction of desire in people to want more and more and more. And look at our president, it's bigger, better, more. And it's that hunger that I think is particularly not specific to Americans, but I think we do it better than anybody, our greed and desire. And I'm fascinated with the cost of that, the cost of your humanity. And I think that nugget in that story is very interesting to me, of losing your mind because you can't get enough. And I think it represents a lot of what's going on now and has been going on. And it's something that just interests me. But if I stick, it's probably because I love the writers and I love the nugget of the piece it's in. And I think we can do better. I think there's more to do. And so I think I think we did great at the Roundabout, and we want more time to work on it. So we're very lucky that people like you and Hal Luftig have supported it and continue to want to see what else it can be. And now also, as God, better than anybody, the trajectory of, if it's Broadway or if it's whatever, it's not a direct path anymore. You look at Hadestown, or you look at, there's no, the way it's done, unless it opens in London and is a smash and they brings it over here and then it's done. But there's a lot of ways of developing that are not what they used to be. So I'm interested to see what the next version of it is. When you ask about what attracts me, it's usually it's usually the quality of the material, or a story that just moves me. This show that I'm editing is a musical that I directed in Canada called The Louder We Get. And it's the Mark Hall story. It's a true story of a Canadian kid who sued the Catholic school board to take his boyfriend to the prom and won. He won against the Catholic school board. But it's more than that. It's about kid empowerment. It's about kids taking the responsibility in their own hands. It's Greta. It's, I don't think we've left the young people a very good legacy. I mean, I don't think they're inheriting something. I think we failed in many ways. I think we failed them in terms of economics and in terms of environment and in terms of a lot of things, and immigration, all kinds of things. And so I think it's time to pass it on to a younger generation and to women, and to see if they can fix the problems that we've caused. This piece is about that, and so that interests me. It's not a coming out story. It's not a prom story. It's an empowerment story. It's about making a difference, and it's an unlikely hero, which I'm also very interested in. Is the guy, there's that Dag Hammarskjöld thing. Call forth the hero in any man, and he will step forward. It's unlikely heroes, which we could use some heroes now. We need to find them, because we're in a little bit of trouble, I think.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to some questions from the comments. Well, here's one I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. Sean Rose asks, what advice do you have for an actor in LA to audition for Broadway self-tapes? I'm just going to ask you, what are your biggest audition tips for actors? Like, when actors come in a room, wherever it is, what's the most important thing an actor should do when they audition for Lonny Price?
Be a nice person, be kind, be human, be there. There are a lot of people who can sing a B flat. But the point is who do you want to be in the room with for 4 years or 6 weeks or whatever it is? There's a lot of, what I'm just saying is there's a lot of talented people, but I also want to see the human being inside that is going to, I'm going to want to hang out within the rehearsal room and want to leave a company. A good positive spirit, I think, is really important. Someone who says yes a lot, someone who doesn't judge. One of the greatest relationships I had with an actor was Emma Thompson, who was incredibly brilliant and incredibly smart. And anything I'd ask her to do, even when it wasn't right, she did with a full heart and 100%. She never judged it. She never thought, oh, that's not going to work. She gave it to us so we could see it, and then we go, oh, that's not right. But her yes was so loud and so clear and so led the company. And that's a wonderful thing to be. So be prepared. If it's a musical, make sure that your stuff that you're giving the pianist is marked correctly. That's really important. That you know enough about the project so that if you're auditioning for Hair or Spring Awakening, you're not singing from a Little Night Music, because that's not smart. So be a smart actor, and also be just a genuinely nice person, and then we'll get along fine. Arrogance or be able to take direction, be able to listen, and come with your best self as best you can.
I got to throw this comment up there because it looks like someone Will Nunziata.
Oh.
Says Lonny with Randy Graff, that's who he's in, a class act was a religious experience. I could not agree more. Lonny was the one who gave me the spark to direct when I assisted him on 110 in the Shade. Love you, Lon. So Will says a big hello to you.
Hello to Will. He's an amazing guy, a wonderful singer and director, and all kinds of things. Nice to hear from you, Will.
You mentioned Emma Thompson. You've worked Glenn Close, Audra McDonald, these incredible bold-faced names. When you get in a room with these people that have these this celebrity status, how do you deal with that dynamic in the room, especially if you haven't worked with them before? Audra, I know you've worked with them many times, your friend, like all that, but the first time you get in a room with Glenn Close, you're like, oh, how do you establish an evening plan? What's that like?
Well, you know, first time I met Glenn when we were talking about doing this, and I met her for lunch, and you know, I said, "How married are you to what you did before?" And she said, "Oh, not at all. Let's start again." And so that was exciting. And I think people like Glenn know that they can be intimidating, or that, you know, people are. And so in terms of being in the room with them, with a company, is they mostly try to make themselves feel like one of everybody, you know, and she certainly did that. She led that company beautifully. They adored her, and they should have. She was really not only a great star, but a great company leader, and adored them, and, you know, all of that. So I think most of these people are not as intimidating as you would think. And they're mostly, you know, insecure and nervous too. You know, they need to, you know, their names are selling tickets, and, you know, for them, they need to deliver. And so they're under a lot of pressure. And I think just sort of taking their hands and going, "We're going to do this together, and I'm right behind you, and we'll fix it. We'll figure it out." And knowing that I respect them enough so that they know that I really am there to help them. You know, I think I said it on your podcast. You know, I think that these actors are like little gems, and it's my job to set them in the ring where the light refracts and makes them sparkle as best they can, because they are extraordinary. There's a reason they're stars. They're amazing. And fun for me is to be 3 feet or 6 feet now, apart from them, as I watch them be amazing. I mean, you know, come on, to see, you know, all those incredible people sing Sondheim songs at you, and it's just like, you know, ridiculous. So they're not as intimidating as you think they would be. Yeah, none of those people also, and I guess I said on your podcast, they work their tails off. Nobody just shows up. No one is lazy. Audra, Glenn, Emma. I worked with the late Zoe Caldwell, an amazing woman, They just kill themselves to be good. And so everyone rises to that too. You know, it's not like they're slacking. So like, oh, I don't have, you know, it's like they're inspiring to be in the room with. Patty, same thing. Patty just works her tail off. Always. Everything we've ever done, you could never say Patty's lazy. Patty's the opposite of lazy. And that's inspiring.
Well, you obviously have so much respect for them, which is why they put their art in your hands, as would I. You're a fantastic director, a fantastic guy, and I am so thankful you're here with us tonight. And stay safe. Take care.
I just want to say that, you know, there are very few theater men like you who care as much about what's going on, and whose love of it is so palpable in every way. And you know, not blow smoke up your butt, but we're lucky to have you. And anyway, I think probably everybody who's wearing a show shirt, and even the people who aren't, feel that way. So thank you for everything you do in the theater, because it matters and it doesn't go unnoticed.
Oh, thank you so much for that. It means the world coming from you, my friend. Stay safe.
You too. Take care.
Very soon.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye. I'm a little moved by that. So thank you, Lonny, for being here. Thanks for those very, very kind words. He just has so much respect and so much love for this business and all the people that do it. It's no wonder why he is who he is. I love those audition tips. For all you actors out there, just show up being the best version of you. That's just the way to go. Don't try to be anyone else. Be you. Be open. Say yes. That's what it's about. We've got a great lineup coming to you this week. It's only Wednesday. And we're going to keep going. No weekends here. We just keep going. Barry, show them who else we got. David Henry Hwang tomorrow. David Henry Hwang is going to join us tonight. M. Butterfly, Chinglish, lots of stuff. My favorite tip or tidbit about David that I learned when I did his podcast, the very first time he heard M. Butterfly read out loud was on the first day of rehearsal for the Broadway production. That's right. They didn't do readings. They didn't do any of that stuff. They just went to Broadway, and look what happened. I would like to do that with some of my shows. Don't forget about the Actors Fund. Don't forget about staying home and staying safe and staying healthy. And don't forget, register right now, next week, how theater makers can make the most of their quarantine. See what we did there? How theater makers can make the most of their quarantine. Mary's going to throw that link up. Join me. I'm going to have like a PowerPointy slide thing. I'm going to probably have some more bad jokes. You won't see me, so maybe that's probably a benefit because my hair grows longer and longer with each passing day. So join me for that webinar. It'll be a lot of fun, some real tips, stuff that I'm basically learning from a lot of other people. I may have a few original ideas, but most of it, frankly, I'm ripping off from some of the great gurus that I study from. I'm a member of this giant mastermind of entrepreneurs, none of whom are in the theater. I have my own coach, I take all that stuff and I'm just going to give it back to you. So hopefully it will help you make more theater. So join us next week. Don't forget, what else? I got lots of other things to talk about. Happy Passover to everyone. And, okay, lastly, something to make you smile. Something to make you smile. Here it is. I was pretty involved with Avenue Q. We helped move the show from Broadway to off, right? Avenue Q, big hit, super fun, super unique. Never would think a show like that would be a Tony Award-winning musical, but it was. Well, it's been parodied now. So here comes the parody song, I Wish I Could Leave This Apartment. I wish I could leave this apartment. There's the website address. Go to theproducersperspective.com/smile, and the video will be there. There it is. Couple of links, and watch it, enjoy it, let it put a smile on your face. And that's all I've got for tonight. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great night.